announce. We've got we've got some get in the comments here. Hit that like button. Leave your question there, and we'll get this thing kicked off here. But Lee, first, where in the world are you?
I am sitting in, I'd like to say sunny Hilton Head, South Carolina, but it's overcast and gray today. But down in the low country of South Carolina.
The Low Country,
That's what
the
we
home
call it.
of the shrimp.
Last time we talked, I was sitting in the high country of Leesburg, Northern Virginia. So it's been a move.
You know what? We love overrated, underrateds on this show, and we've got some doozies towards the end. But since everybody loves this segment, I gotta ask you. I hear Low Country. I think. What do you think? I think
Alligators,
close. Shrimp and grits.
shrimp
Shrimp
and
and
grits.
grits. I gotta ask you, Lee. Shrimp and grits. Overrated, underrated.
Underrated. I think I mean, here's what's cool about living down here. You talk to the locals, like anywhere else you live in the world, you go, hey, where do you get your shrimp? Where do you get your oysters? They freaking go out here and grab them and eat them,
This is
right?
grab 'em.
It's, yeah, they just grab an oyster and pop it and eat it, right?
Right
So
there on
it's
the
a,
side of the creek,
yeah,
right there.
absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, when you talk fresh, you can't go to sleep on the low country when it comes to that food. But yeah, it's a cool place to live. It's got hurricanes and alligators, so little different than living up north.
Well, we're not going to put you on the tourism board with hurricanes and alligators as your slogan, but I do love it. It's got a charm, and yeah, we'll get into that as well. But get in the comments, hit that like button, let us know who you are, where you are, um, and we're trying some new things today here on Love and Relo, so bear with us as we do that. But I gotta ask you, Lee. I heard this rumor, and I want to know. I want to break some news maybe for the people. I heard a rumor about Reside and a big partnership with a major hospitality brand. Lee, you want to announce that? Can we break that news here?
Yeah, we can break that news. We recently signed a 10-year development agreement with Wyndham Hotel and Resorts to bring the best of both worlds together. You know, the world's largest hotel franchise company and what I think is the premier provider of corporate housing. And bring it together in a mainstream B2C fashion where we'll be opening and growing our brand through their channels and creating standalone serviced apartment, furnished apartment, essentially apart hotels throughout the United States. And, based upon my inbox today, probably around the world. But first things first is the top 50 markets in the U.S. And it's a 2-year incubation, if you will, of a concept that we're super excited to be launching.
Listen, I'm not a corporate housing expert like you, but to me this makes so much sense, right? I mean, I go to Europe, I stay in apart hotels over there. It's off the shelf inventory. You walk in, you know what you're going to get, but it's suitable for the long stay, the long-term stay. We don't have a lot of that type of inventory here in the United States, yet we're craving that experience as a business traveler. I mean, I literally stayed at a Wyndham property 3 weeks ago at WERC. I mean, the scenario was I brought me and 4 team members, right? So it's 5 of us Glomo folks here, okay? And I was like, I can't afford to stay at the Gaylord. I can't get 5 rooms at the Gaylord,
Right.
right? But I can get a 2 bedroom and a 3 bedroom, apart hotel apartment, if you will, at the Wyndham, and that's what I did. And it was just a short walk, a stone's throw away from the convention center, and it was phenomenal,
Yeah.
and I loved it. So for me, this makes so much sense.
Well, it's funny. So first of all, you're hired. Second, a lot of times when I start these conversations, I kind of hover at 20,000 feet and talk about all my time doing this overseas. It's like this, there's nothing new about it, right? Weirdly, and because the U.S. is usually the front end of most things, but we're the back end of this phenomenon,
Yes,
which,
yes.
I mean, when I ran Bridge Street, we had 1,000 of these throughout London, and we had them in Paris and around the world. And so I'm always kind of dumbfounded when I run into someone that's never heard of it. But it gives an opportunity to explain it, but it also gives credibility to the fact that it's a long-standing product that's finally made its way here. I think there's been a lot of interest in tight versions of it over the last 10 years. You've watched a lot of players come and go in the STR market, most particularly. You know, there's a lot of interest driven up by what Airbnb does. But I think where everything falls flat is unless you have that really solid brand affiliation like Wyndham brings to what we do, you're not really creating the right paradigm for the product to live on. And that's where we really feel. You started the show with the word blessed. We feel really blessed to have a relationship with Wyndham for a number of levels. But most importantly, you know, their reputation and their ability to drive ridiculous amounts of revenue and leads through their franchise system, which is fundamentally how we've set this up.
Really interesting. I want to hear more about this as much as you can kind of divulge here, because I think from a business standpoint, these types of partnerships are incredible. Get in the comments. I want to hear from you. Where in the world are you? I want to give you a shout out, so check in with us. Hit that like button. Shout out to Sharon. Sharon checking in here. What's up, friend? She's saying hi, Lee and Ben. It's good to see you, Sharon. Hey, and thanks everybody for all the birthday wishes. Sharon sent me a lovely email.
When was your birthday?
Yeah, yesterday was my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was quite pleasant, actually.
How old?
I'm 42.
You don't look a day over 41, my friend. Good job.
Yeah, that's what I always say to people. That's great. I love it. Our sense of humor is very similar, which is nice.
It always is.
Hit that like button, y'all. Get in the comments here. Let us know what questions you have about corporate housing, about this partnership between Reside and Wyndham. So Lee, you kind of alluded to some things there, and I want to ask you a question if you're at liberty to kind of talk about this a little bit. But it's obvious to me what Reside gets out of this deal, because now you're able to book in to this off-the-shelf, fantastic inventory with Wyndham properties. I can personally attest is great. So now all this inventory and this new style of inventory kind of to the States. What does Wyndham get out of this kind of partnership?
So I know you're the host, but I'm gonna have to correct you on what we're doing. You good with that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have a choice at this point, right? We're halfway through the correction. That's like somebody saying, "You want some feedback?" It's like,
You're
really,
married.
But I'm curious. No,
yeah, you're married. You're married. You know how it works.
I know how it works. I've been wrong. I've been wrong for 19 years, Lee.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What's another day?
No. So what we're doing. So this is a slight. So we're going to benefit from Wyndham's demand generation. They have 110 million loyalty members that book through their channels, which is how you found the product over in National Harbor.
Yeah.
What we're doing is adding to that product from our side. So what we're doing is taking over, multifamily products in any stage or shape, right? They can be anywhere from 50 units to 300. We're putting the Wyndham Reside branding on it. We're connecting it to the Wyndham franchise system. We're running it as Reside. So think of us as a management company, linking up with a franchise company, linking up with an owner. So it's kind of a 3-stage relationship where the owner benefits remarkably through the outsized NOI that they earn from our relationship.
NOI?
Net operating income.
Net operating income. Okay.
Yeah, that's all right. You have NOI over at LOVE+RELO.
Very little.
Well,
usually in the red, to be honest.
Hire more interns. You'll make more money.
That's nice. And that will stay at your properties.
So that's the difference. So what'll happen, Ben, over the next couple of years, I mean, even now, we have a couple properties open and 5 more coming online. I look to have about 50 of these over the next 18 months. When you come to a city, and I will absolutely guide you into one of our apartments, that's where you'll stay. You'll book through Wyndham.com. You will find Reside, a Wyndham residence in Seattle, and you will book it, and you will stay there and enjoy it. It'll be a fully amenitized studio 1, 2, 3-bedroom apartment. Has all the bells and whistles.
Wow.
Has the amenities, but it's more formalizing and professionalizing what has traditionally been the STR play, kind of Airbnb OTA type booking patterns, but running it through a mature channel that is Wyndham's brand. And that's really the subtleties to it is, we're lining up with a brand versus trying to fight the brand.
I love that strategy. That's really cool. And you're right. I was absolutely wrong. I had it totally backwards there. But now you're augmenting all their capability. Uh,
Absolutely.
Really interesting. With that though, I got to imagine when you're working with such a well-known brand as that, and they have all their brand standards and all this brand equity in the marketplace that they have to kind of ensure the continuity and the care and just the way that that's handled. I mean, what type of standards come along with a deal like that you have to meet? I mean, I'm sure there has to be
Mm.
some kind of there's some brand standards and things like that that you have to kind of comply with, I imagine.
Yeah, that's a great question, and part of the reason it took a couple of years, as I say, incubated, is a lot of conversations around brand standards, particularly around ours and how we view the world of furnished apartments, which they don't really participate in, right? So they have their baseline standards, we had ours, and there was a meeting of the minds as we blended standards. There was things that we took from them that we thought made a ton of sense. There was things that they took from us that made sense for the sorts of traveler that we feel will be in the units, and also from the experience that we've had all these years doing it. So it was. I mean, and it's a credit to Wyndham and their flexibility and their willingness to help cultivate a brand. Wyndham. So Wyndham, if you think about Wyndham, they have their Wyndham brand, but they also have 20, 30 other brands that pepper their ecosystem. Everything from a microtel on up to a grand, a Wyndham Grand, right?
Microtel. I stayed at a microtel in Montreal when I was in college.
There you go. That's one of their brands.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, they have tons of, yeah. They have a lot of those, they have about 10,000 hotels, but they kind of have many different price points up from the bottom to the top.
And I
But
remember that was like in a part hotel, and that there was a kitchenette in there.
a
Because I
kitchenette.
remember we got a pizza at like 2 in the morning. We stuck it in the oven and almost started a fire. So I totally remember the microtel in Montreal. Shout out to the general manager of that hotel that did not kick us out. Appreciate you very much. Super
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, why was your pizza cold? I mean, at two in
Well,
the
it's
morning,
Montreal. Everything's cold, man. Everything's cold. Okay,
True.
Jesus.
You went in the winter. You went in the
Yeah,
winter.
and I could barely call it pizza to be honest with you. But
You should
anyway,
have got the poutine.
yeah. Well, that would cold poutine might be worse. I don't know. Yeah, the poutine, the poutine.
So that's the impetus of the program, right? It's actually to bring inventory into Wyndham's ecosystem in the furnished apartment category, but using it for short-term stays.
Yeah, really interesting. So so there really is no like stay minimums or anything like that that you would see.
No, we're deliberately positioning ourselves in markets where those restrictions don't exist, and if they do exist, we're obviously navigating the
Sure.
appropriate channels to get there. But we're not. There won't be anything open that says we're just 30 plus days. That's not the model. It's not the direction we're going.
Yeah, it's not the value prop of the brand of the partner, right?
I don't.
So
No, it's not Wyndham's sweet spot.
yeah, for sure. I do want to ask you about that though, because I do enjoy staying, in properties in cities where there are these types of restrictions, right? So it's like I go to New York sometimes, or I go to Boston, and I hear about this stuff. I'm not super involved as you, obviously. You know, is this a growing trend? Are we seeing these types of regulations more and more that are limiting the stay? What are your thoughts on this on the macro trend?
Yeah, it's a question I get asked all the time, and I've been getting asked it for as long as we've been working on this program, which is years. And there's been ebbs and flows. I think there's been overreactions to it. I mean, you are seeing it globally. I think if you kind of soft circle big tourist towns, those have become, if there's going to be a problem, it's going to be in places that are considered highly touristy, where people have come in, bought up all sorts of stock, whether it's condos, whether it's homes, and they fundamentally turned what was a sleepy town into a Airbnb town, for lack of a better word. And some municipalities don't like it, so they outlaw it. Up and down, the Outer Banks, there's issues in some of those towns. There are issues in some of the bigger cities that have supposed housing shortages. New York has always been in the middle of that mix. San Francisco, Seattle, DC, Chicago, all the big cities have some version of an ordinance. Now, most of them have a workaround through historic uses or just conversion costs, buying the license.
Like a hotel
But
license or something like that.
yeah, there's some version of it. It's not quite a hotel license, but you might as well call it one. But then what's always interesting to me is it doesn't matter what that core city is doing. The second you step over the jurisdictional line, it doesn't matter, right? So Seattle has an issue. There's a path to solve the issue, but you can also just go across the bridge and now you're in Bellevue and they don't have a restriction. They don't have a problem, right? You're still paying hotel tax. You're still generating revenue, paying taxes, and there isn't a housing shortage. I think when a city thinks they have a housing shortage, they think that this model is a problem. But
Yeah.
there was a swell of it. 7, 8, 9 years ago, there was like I led a coalition in New York City with CHPA back in '06 to fight a ban that was going to be 90 days and under
Wow.
or 90. Yeah, so I mean that would have put the entire industry out of business, and we successfully negotiated back to 30. But you're not seeing a domino effect of this across most cities.
Well, and my question also becomes, make sure I see folks that are tuning in right now. Hit that like button, get in the comments here. Let's get that LinkedIn algorithm juiced up here. I see you, Daisy. I see you, Jennifer. And put your questions in there for Lee as well. But I wonder, like, okay, so a ban comes on or regulation around the 30 days, 90 days, whatever it is, comes on the books, and sometimes these things are kind of overreactions to your point.
Mm.
But do they ever come off? I mean, it feels like sometimes we put regulations and laws in place, but do we ever go back and evaluate them 5 years later and say, is this serving us, and repeal
Yeah,
them
it's a
or
great. I mean, San Francisco would be a great test case for that because they put in some very draconian type rules a couple of years ago. And when in the midst of them having a complete exodus from the city, for both business and regular residents, and I would think that it would open the door up to have those conversations. But it's all driven by city council. So where the city council goes, these rules and regulations go. So I haven't seen too many repealed, but there always seems to be another path that if you engage early, you can get to. I think grabbing random. Where I think our program is different is we're taking entire buildings and changing use. It's a very controlled environment. It's not Airbnb at all. It's not like you have 4 or 5 in a building and you're disrupting residents and you got people coming in and out all night. It's meant to be a transient product. And I think that has a different temperament with cities, because you're behaving as a good corporate citizen. You're part of the community, right? You
yeah.
go to the chamber meetings, you're hosting, you're just doing all the things you should do if you run what I'd call it, a boutique furnished product. So,
Well, and I
you know,
mean, and you're paying taxes to your point as well, right? I mean, it is. I don't know this, but I mean, is there sales tax? Is there tourism tax? Resort tax?
all of it. Yeah, we
Where's it
load
coming
every
in from?
tax. We load every tax there is that you would pay as a hotel. So we're
Yep.
not
And you're
skirting
not
the
paying those
system.
taxes on rent, right? So if I'm renting that, it's not like I'm paying those to the municipalities and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
I think your point about San Francisco is a brilliant point, right? I mean, you're looking at a city where there's been all this flight kind of out of the city center, right, due to all these issues and stuff, and it's like, man, this would be a cool little lever to pull and see if we can fill that back up, increase the tax base, which also helps support policing and things of that nature as well. And
And,
yeah,
and, and CHPA does a good job. They have a watch group that kind of watches what's happening. You know, um, I guess AI can do it now too, right? You just keep reading everything that's happening in all the city council chambers and figure out where there's the opening or where there's a changing of the guard. It just takes, you know, colors going from red to blue or blue to red to change how things go.
yep. For sure. And hit that like button. Get in the comments here. Ask your questions of Lee. Let us know what you're thinking. Daisy Sinclair checking in from Glowing. What's up, Daisy?
Hey,
How's it
Daisy.
going? Daisy knows about corporate housing. I love Daisy. Jennifer says, yes, we are seeing many more restrictions
from
the
the
communities.
communities. Yeah, that's the other side of the coin, right? I mean, the jurisdiction's one thing, but you have two different things that can restrict length of stay and scale, and that will be the communities and the lenders. Remarkably, the lenders have a lot of say, which is why you hear about caps in communities, where you have a great property that I mean, we all have had them. We've had a great property everybody wants to stay at for regular corporate housing, and you're limited to a 10 or 20% cap for the whole product, and nothing the property manager can do about it. That's the covenant. Then you got other groups, that just absolutely will not allow any sort of Airbnb type transaction. That's written into the leases now, and that was a reaction to people kind of arbitraging these buildings. So they go, Ben Cross, intern for XYZ company, gets a 3-month stay in a beautiful city on the house, and he puts it on Airbnb and rents it for 4 times as much and stays in his buddy's apartment
Oh
in
wow,
Prince. And that stuff was happening, right? And
wow.
yeah, no, it was pretty cool. And I mean, I won't say who and when, but when it happened, I was like, that's pretty cool. We should hire that kid.
That guy knows how to make some money right there.
Exactly. But it disrupts the flow of a building. And I think anytime you have a building that is cohabitating short and regular tenants, you're creating a potential for, dogs and cats in an elevator. I mean, something's going to happen.
Dogs and cats in an elevator. I like the saying. I
I
love
don't
it.
know where that came
I
from.
love it. Let me ask you though, Lisa. We're talking kind of we took a deep dive on this one, but I want to ask you in general. Talk to me kind of about the next big thing in corporate housing and relocation. I mean, here we are in the relo world, and I know y'all touched kind of several verticals, but I mean, things have been kind of stagnant a little bit the last 18 months. It's been kind of slow.
Mm.
What are you seeing as the next big thing to watch out for?
I think there's a handful of things happening. I mean, as you know, the other piece of my equation is 360, which is our platform, and I think there's been a proliferation of platforms that have grown over the last decade, and there's like Highlander. At some point, there'll be one or two, right? I mean, you can't have 20.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see more consolidation around the platforms, and I think you'll
How
find
does that
providers.
game out though? How does that? I mean, I agree with your thesis here that there can't be 20, right? Because all of a sudden there was, let's say there was 20 providers, and all of a sudden there's 20 aggregators. It's like, wait, did we aggregate or did we just
Right.
recreate? So how does it? How
But
does that game out? And like,
I think in part of that transition, there's a separation of church and state. I think the aggregators are going to become the aggregators. I don't think you can live in both places at the same time and say you're agnostic. So there's got to be a complete separation so that you are then the advocate for the client, right? With no other channel. I think I think platforms will be pushed there, or they're already there. I think obviously, not to say what everyone says, but I think AI is going to get very involved in helping navigate these platforms as they grow and succeed. And I think inventory is going to change. I think, you know, um, now this is just me selfishly talking, so you just have to take that for what it is. But I do think as there's more opportunities to have standalone products, you start to build branding around it, and you start to get people that want to stay in the same sort of places versus just letting it, roll through, their corporate housing company. Um, but I think, I'll tell you what I don't think changes ever. I think, and I think why corporate housing has been so steady over the years is there's a curation that all of us do to the stay, that the longer we go down the service cycle, the more important it seems to become, because everywhere else you go, there's less service, right?
yeah,
Corporate housing doesn't give you less; they're always giving you more, and because they want to take care, because there's a service, thesis, I think that beats to the hearts of most corporate housing providers, that when you've spent time with them, boy, we get passionate when we talk about
oh yeah.
guests and move-ins, right?
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And it is nice, right? Because coming from the moving industry, so I'll make a clunky kind of comparison, right? Where I feel like there is a race to the bottom and maybe a cycle of disinvestment in the end solution and experience. And what I mean by that is saying, oh, we don't do that. Oh, we don't do that. Oh, we're going to carve this out and give it to the, we're going to let the auto shippers, we're going to carve that out. We're not going to create the TVs. We're going to, we're not going to hang stuff. We're not going to do maid service. We're not going to do. The list of not going to do's just continues to grow. And you're left with this easily commoditized, core base, service that now anybody can do. When you don't do the hard stuff, anybody can do what's left. And then it becomes a race to the bottom, and you just compete on price. And so when I'm hearing you talk about corporate housing and clinging to service and service being kind of in the DNA of the people in the business, and I've been in those rooms, you're right. I mean, a lot of the folks who operate these service providers have cleaned the toilets themselves at one point in their career, right? And when you got that under your fingernails, you never forget it, So,
Spot on.
I love it.
It's I'm going to grab onto that if you don't mind, because I think one of the things is we're taking our new partnership forward, and we're meeting with developers and owners and others, and it's easy for us to be compared to others that are in our space, and I don't mean corporate housing now, I mean the STR space, and I'm not going to name names, but we all know them. Their thesis was very different, right? They saw an opportunity in the marketplace. They thought they could leverage technology, and they thought they could skinny up the service model to drive more profits for owners. I mean, that was initially their thesis, and I think the experiment hasn't worked only because you're fighting opposing forces. Service at its very core requires humanity. It requires a human touch. If you want to excel at service, it's not, because if it was just about a furnished apartment, you wouldn't need a corporate housing company. You wouldn't need me. You could just put furniture in an apartment and someone would go move into it. But people want service. They want attention. They want urgency around service, speed of service. And that it's like, for my model, when we take on a building, and the owner starts to say, well, do you really need this? And say, no, it's a 24/7 model, right? There will be someone at a desk at midnight, at 2 a.m., at 4 a.m. when something goes wrong, when you're, go ahead.
No, I mean, totally. I'm not trying to stop you. I'm just chiming in. Yeah. I've been the guy at midnight in a cold rain trying to figure out how the heck to open this key fob door, right? Or download the app, or I got a fob, I got an app, and I've got a secret handshake. What's gonna open this door and get me in my bed fast enough, And you're knocking, you're banging on the glass, trying to get the night shift's attention over there. He's trying to decipher if you're a vagrant or a corporate VIP, and you look like the vagrant at 12 o'clock at night.
You do.
Banging on the glass because you had a few cocktails on the plane. Whatever. I'm sorry, just hypothetically. But my point is, you need a person to intercede in those moments.
And that's our model, right? We're and not just on the service side, but we're also, the building needs to be taken care of. It's an asset, right? And there's all those ecosystems need their attention. And that's always been our view on service. That's a corporate housing ethos, and it carries forward into what we're doing. And I think the other thing is, it's the speed of service, which is, if there's the new thing, if there is a thing, like, we're being judged on speed now, and we're being judged on our ability to. I could hit a button right now, and something from Amazon is going to show up at my door before we get off this call.
Speed
right?
is service, yes.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, and you can't get.
I'm trying to figure out, I need it now.
Yeah, well, and listen, that's the conundrum, I think, of that's always been our conundrum in corporate housing, right? You put somebody into a furnished apartment temporarily, they fall into the trap of multifamily service, which could be, hey, my dishwasher's out. Well, we'll send someone over there. Oh, it's a part. We'll get it in 2 weeks. If you live there for a year, you're like, I'll deal with it, right? But if you're only there for a week, right, it's a problem. And our company and many CHPA companies will get in the middle of that and say, no, we'll fix it, right? We're not going to wait for you to fix it because a week is too long. And there's a thing I say in my company, we call it the grandmother paradox. It's like, what is the service you'd want your grandmother to get, and how fast? right? Would you let her stand outside banging on a door, or would you make sure she got in?
No, you if your grandmother calls you and you're sitting down for dinner and you got the pot roast right there, and grandma's like, I'm locked out of my house, you say, honey, I'm sorry, put it in the microwave. I gotta go to Grammy's house. I gotta open his door. It's the third time this week. I know, honey, we'll get a new
Exactly.
pan. But you drop what you're doing and you're gonna go help you're helping
Yeah,
grandmother.
that's because it's the easiest thing to like, unless you don't like your grandma. So you got to give the 5%.
No, if it's my wife's grandmother, it's different. That's like, honey, I'll put the pot roast in the microwave for you, and I'll see you in a bit. No, I love that. I love that. That's a great way to look at it. I agree. Speed is service nowadays. I think coming up in this industry, we used to talk about customer service, like everybody that you talk to is going to be wearing a tuxedo and have a Cambridge education. And it's like, no, and actually, I just want the answer. I want it now, and I want it to be accurate. I mean,
Yeah, I think the challenge we're all going to have is, I think, as you move into this next iteration, is the world's changed, people have changed, the kids have been raised differently. The tolerances are different. So you do have a collision of age now, where some of us that are older, have a different expectation of service of someone that is younger. Like my 23-year-old daughter, her level of, she's got an interesting duality, because she works at a 5-star hotel, so she knows what it looks like. But B, in her normal life, she could care less,
hmm,
right? And so
interesting.
she's got to put on a persona.
So what does she care about?
Like what all 23-year-old kids care about, right? It's the fun she's having. But the speed of the service, she's got a lot more tolerance to wait for something that isn't necessarily the most important thing in her life. The dishwasher wouldn't disrupt her for a month, probably, right? She'd be
Yeah, she's
like,
just going to DoorDash for a month, which is probably what she's going to do anyway.
exactly.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Let me ask you though. With these paradigm shifts and everything you're talking about, does the corporate housing industry sell itself well, in your opinion?
Um, I think it's getting harder in some cases. I think the decision tree has changed. There was a day, back in the day, if I go back to 1997 when I got in this business, you were only having one kind of conversation. It was in front of a actual buyer, a client that understood you and understood what you offered, and really put a value to the service, the quality. The price was in there, but you were pricing usually against a hotel, because in 97 this was kind of a fresher product. um, Now you're navigating procurement, you're navigating buyers, you're navigating folks that have put a different set of KPIs against your business, where emotion isn't measured. Everyone can talk about MPR scores and all that, but it's a little more intricate than that. And I think to that end, it's a little harder to sit in a room and say, do you realize what we do? Yeah, the good old days. Thank you, Sharon. Yes, the good old days. It was like shooting fish in a barrel back then. Um, so I think it's harder to convey the nuances of what we do, because the nuances don't show up on a spreadsheet to an accountant. It's just, what did I pay? How do I pay less? And any other KPI they want to throw at it. But don't kid yourself. 80% of it's on what did I pay and how do I pay less.
Well, this is what I wonder, though, right? You talk about the nuance stuff doesn't show up on a spreadsheet, but as a consumer, and I was literally having this conversation earlier today with a client. As a consumer, if I want to know if I should buy something, I Google it, and I see what the Google reviews
Mm-hmm.
are, or the Yelp score is, or the Trustpilot, or the Glassdoor, or there's a score out there for everything
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, right? And but I don't hear service providers talking about these kind of empirical scores. Now I know every RMC has their own scoring system, but it's kind of a black box, and you know what your score is, but you don't know what anybody else's score is, and the provider
Right.
sure doesn't know what it is. But I don't see us, and I'll say us as corporate housing, I'll say us as the broader relocation industry, doing a good job of quantifying the soft, squishy stuff like customer experience, and then promoting and selling it. I think that's kind of where my question was coming from. Was like,
Mm.
do we do a good job of selling ourselves on value? Because obviously it's easy to quantify, days, nights, room rates, stuff like two bed, one bed, whatever. These are numerical, but Are we doing a good job? And as I was on a client call, I'm being long-winded, but that's whatever. That's why we do an hour show. Anyway, while I was on this client call, I'm literally we're my client that I'm with is a service provider, and they're talking about, oh, our service is so great, our service is so great, and as they're saying it, I'm like, yeah, this is probably not landing with the customer because everyone says this. So I'm Googling. I'm literally Googling the top 5 players in the space, and it happened to actually be business immigration was the vertical, right? And I'm Googling the top 5 players, and I'm looking at their Google reviews, and I'm literally listing out the Google reviews. One had a 2.4, one had a 2.8, one had a 3.4, one had a 4.4, and my client had a 4.9 on Google. And everyone accepts, okay, Google reviews legit. We get it. We understand what it is. We can verify it, right? And I sent that, and when I sent that over to the client, it's like their eyes were open. They're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like, oh yeah, you guys really are what you say you are, you know. And I'm just wondering if we can do a better job like that.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a handful of challenges. I mean, obviously, it's a rhetorical and obvious answer of yes. I think that the barriers are a lot of to get the reviews, you got to be able to, spur someone to give the review. And, in many cases, the companies that we work with say, no, we review them.
Yep.
You don't,
True.
right? So we
True.
get blocked.
Valid.
But that doesn't stop some of us from finding unique ways to do it. Like we collect SMS reviews, 2 of them at move-in on every guest, right? We just hit them right off the bat. Nothing unique there, but I can trend line it. And the second there's a review that pops below a number we've established, they get a live phone call. We have 24-hour service centers, so they get a live phone call. They're shocked. Whoa! I just hit no. I said, yeah, I know, but
I just hit thumbs down. I didn't know you were
right,
gonna call
I
me.
didn't want to get a
I would have
call.
thumbs up if I would have known I was
I
gonna
thought
get
it
a
was
call.
anonymous. But so we do track it and we see it, and then we have to balance it against whatever comes through the company because they have their own black box,
Hmm.
and it's interesting to they're not always the same, right? I think our data set is much deeper and wider, so we can tell stories out of the data, and I think But to your point, how do you make it public? I will say, in what I'm doing with Wyndham, all of it is public. Like they're coming through all the channels. They're using all the same channels that you would use for any other hotel. You get your ratings, your Google rankings, all of it. So we're very, from this product, we're very out there now, right? And the corporate housing product, it's always been a little bit harder to get that guest because by the time they check out from a mobility experience, they've been pinged 10 times, right? From even when they're not supposed to, from mobility, from this, from the movers. But yeah, I think, given the opportunity, we should all be very, very open and proud to have our scores posted. Um, but you're right. There's only a couple places that are considered somewhat, you know, um, you know, cleansed of any bias. And
Yeah.
if you're not there, you know, I mean, interestingly enough, though, if you think about it, you go to Amazon.com, you do trust their reviews, right? Even though they're Amazon's reviews, it's not like it's a Google review of an Amazon product. It's an Amazon review, but
Well, you
that's a whole
trust the
nother.
reviews because you know it's user generated. However, things have come out because the stakes are so high. Things have come out about Amazon, vendors because they use vendors buying reviews or stuff in those reviews,
Yeah.
and things of that nature. And when the
Well,
stakes are
I
high enough,
mean,
there's going to be.
I think that you can easily quantify almost. I mean, when I look at some nebulous item that doesn't mean I don't. It's not even a branded item. I just want X. I want a box of nails because I'm too lazy to go to Ace Hardware. And
Common problem in the Curtis household. Need a box of
it,
nails.
yeah, I got to hang up pictures. So, but I would migrate to the one that had the highest stars. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It's a nail. It's going to probably be the same, but I just migrate there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think I always think about that, and then I also think about what is the role of an association. I mean, I know you're super active in CHPA, and shout out to Nick Estrada. I got a chance to sit down with him at the WERC, and also Lauren Turner, who's chairing the CHPA conference that's coming up in San Diego. So a little plug for that. Definitely go to that. But I'm wondering, what is the opportunity for associations in general? And this isn't a call out of CHPA, but I mean IAM on the moving side or WERC on the relocation side, et cetera, to kind of serve as this single pane of glass or point of truth to say, hey, these are the best companies in the space, or these are the ratings. Or, and here's another thing I always thought would be a cool opportunity, and I know you're kind of a big thinker like this, so I want to run this by you. An index for how the industry is doing. Like we have a Dow Jones Industrial Average that says, how the stock market is doing, right? We have a consumer price index that tells us, how, what a gallon of milk is doing, trending, right? I would love to see something around relocation volumes or corporate
Mm.
housing volumes aggregated nationally or globally by these associations to say, corporate housing volumes ticked up 4.8% in the fourth quarter last year, or they're down year over year 10%, or et cetera, et cetera. I think that type of insight would be great. Otherwise, just people like me going, "Hey, how's business?"
Okay.
You
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not really. I'd say this. I've had a long run with Chip. I was the chair 3 times. I've sat on numerous committees. I spent a long time in that at that board table. And I would say yes. Again, everything you're saying is a yes. It should be. But there's obstacles again. The thing about Dow Jones and all the other indexes that are out there is they're typically pegging off of public companies with publicly traded business information.
Mm.
These corporate housing companies, and you've sat with a lot of them. They're all different sizes. They all have different profiles. They all have different owners. They have all different fears. There's always fear of competition, unfair trade information. There's so many fears that run through our industry. It blocks a collaborative approach to information sharing, and I can share that very easily because I drove one of the initiatives to create an analytics database for the industry back right after COVID. Built it, but no one trusts anybody, and I wish it was different because I think there is a benefit to having that sort of unbiased data because we learn from it and we grow from it. So I'm not being cynical, and I'm not
No,
trying
it's
to.
valid, and I've heard this, right? I mean, it's the same reason why we can't get together on, you know, uh, data data languages like these get together and have these coalitions around how we share data and having a standard, data standards across
Yeah.
providers and things like that. I mean, it's the same type of thing, right? So I get it, and another thing I've seen, and to argue against it, and I saw this at the American Moving and Storage Association because they did actually track the moving volumes of the top, 8 van lines, right? And that was their set, right? Like you said, the Dow Jones, right? You have 300 companies. Well, this was their 8, and the moving industry, like most of the business, was with these 8. Well, what it didn't track was all the new entrants. So if you're tracking these 8 over 30 years, but you're not tracking U-Haul, you're not tracking Pods, you're not tracking all these like new companies that come into the space. Well, and you're saying market share is doing this, but then the U.S. Postal Service says, well, X amount of people changed address last year. So wait, they did move, but you're just not catching it here. So I did see that those numbers would evolve and the players would evolve. So there's a lot of challenges around it. To your point,
Yeah. I mean, I think time will tell. I think the data is got value. Data is becoming. I mean, it's becoming the table stake.
hmm
So, I think, there's always another iteration to a business and association, but I would give CHPA a ton of credit for their efforts in trying to drive toward that. It's just everything about almost anything in this world is about timing. So, whatever's happening now, as companies are adopting AI and I mean, getting a lot closer to the epicenter of data, I think there's probably an inevitable momentum that clicks and it just becomes a norm.
yeah. I want to ask you about duty of care. right? I mean, duty of care is something we used to talk about it a lot. I feel like we used to talk about it more
Mm.
even. And but yet I feel like we're more afraid than we've ever been. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. What's the role or the status of duty of care as a priority right now, and how are we doing with that?
I mean, I'm trying not to become an infomercial. So, but I do take it. I think it's very, if you're particularly if you're in the B2C or the B2B side of this corporate housing business, right? There are very strong check boxes against what a company's view of duty of care looks like. So the guidance is there. The requirements are there. I think we're at a time and place where your checkbox on what you say you do can now be proven, which puts, there was a time where duty of care could just be a casual check and no one's ever going to know or check, because it was buried in a pile of paper. That's changed. I mean, you can run all sorts of systems against, supply chains and, vendors and to find out if what you said is true. If what even down to the training that you give. We do our annual compliance and duty of care training with one of our major companies, and every single employee must take it online, and it's provable, right? So I think it's a very important part of what we do. If we talk about service and curation and speed of service, how we take care of our guests inside of one of our apartments has got to be paramount. It's got to be top of mind. So I think we take. I've always taken it serious because I've always thought the flip of that was, because it's such a shadow industry, and I say that with respect, but it's obviously a bit of a shadow industry.
What do you mean?
It doesn't,
What is shadow industry?
like, not everyone knows about it, right? Like corporate, like my mom, God bless her, who passed this year, never figured out what I did. so I
My mom's
just,
like that too. She'll call me up and she'll be like, "Is everything okay? Like, are you
yeah,
still like able to pay your mortgage? Is everything okay?"
yeah.
Oh my
I miss
gosh.
those calls. My mom would say, "Are you okay? How is your business?" She had this big thick accent. How's the business?
Oh,
But
where was your mother from?
so born and raised in Quito, Ecuador. So
Oh,
she
very cool.
lived 87 glorious years. So,
Oh, God
but
bless.
she's but she never understood what I did, to the extent that I could explain the subtleties of the business. She understood there's beds, and she stayed in them and still didn't understand what I did. But no, I think I think it's just it goes beyond, I'll use the one example I always worried about: key control, which is slowly more working its way toward the center. But for most of the days in early corporate housing, it was, you go to any corporate housing office, you'd find a basket and there'd be keys in it. I
Yeah.
mean, then you knew you were in a corporate housing office back in the day.
Basket of keys.
Basket of keys.
Was it the good old days though? If we're basket of
Well,
keys land, I mean,
depends on how good your basket of keys security was,
did it
right?
have a
So
lid?
you
That's
put a
the
Rottweiler on it and it'd be fine. But I always worried about what would happen if, right?
hmm
If keys got, because if you didn't change keys or you didn't track your keys, and the next person comes in and does something bad to the person that was there before, boom, the industry blows up and it disappears, because people go, that is a BS situation, right? That
Yeah.
I used to lose sleep over that, and we always had pretty tight controls, and we got through all of this time, all of the companies, without a
But you're
serious.
right. It's not only a threat to your company, it's a threat to the entire industry. You hear a
Absolutely.
couple stories like horror stories like that, people are like, I'm never getting in a corporate housing thing again. I
Yeah,
mean, Uber deals with the same type of thing, right? You hear a couple
yeah.
stories about Uber drivers, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're like, I don't
Or
trust the
air,
process
yeah,
anymore.
and it's weird too, because scale and convenience seems to trump safety sometimes. Because clearly you could say that about an Uber or Lyft, Airbnb, pick your poison, right? There's always a gamble, but I think to your point, you use the scores, you make decisions, right? An Uber driver that's a 3 point, I don't even know what their bottom number is, but you're like, pass, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, but I mean,
I'm a
but
4.93, by the way, if we're doing Uber.
that's your rider score or your
That's my
driver
rider
score?
score.
I don't know if you
That's
drove.
my driver score.
I don't know if you drove
Hey, we got to
before.
hurry up. I have a call. I got to go to Savannah Airport here in a minute. So
I never thought about that, by the way. But parking your car at the air. So I Uber to the airport now and Uber back all the time, like exclusively. I never drive to the airport. Airport parking is crazy expensive, whatever. But gosh, you could drive to the airport, park, and then when you get there to your car, you could turn on your Uber and be like, hey, anybody want to ride out of this joint, And you could pay for your parking that way. I'm just throwing it out there, just entrepreneur mindset over here. Um, Lee, we could talk about duty of care. We could talk about all the cool stuff that you're doing and the corporate and solve all the problems in the corporate housing industry. Um, but I gotta switch the gears here a little bit. You want to have a little fun, Lee?
Yeah, let's have some fun.
That sounds fun. You want to play a game with me, Lee? So,
Absolutely.
so our here comes our most important segment of the show here, the one everybody waits around for and gets excited about. Overrated, underrated. Lee Curtis. I don't know if we had this segment last time you were on. Do you know how to play this game, Lee?
I can't remember if we did.
I
So
don't think we did. I think we had a top five back in the day. You know what, Lee? I'm going to make it easy on you. There's only two rules, Lee, okay? You ready? The first, I'm going to offer you a topic, and you are going to tell me if it's either overrated or underrated. Those are your two options. Don't get cute. Don't overthink it, all right? And the second rule is I will tell you if you're right. All right? Let's get in. You ready? The first one up, Frank Sinatra.
Oh, I mean, he's overrated.
Overrated, Frank Sinatra.
No, I'm joking. He's
Or Blue
underrated.
Eyes,
No, I love
underrated.
old Blue Eyes. I have nothing but I love his music. I got a buddy that's you've been to
I
our
know,
yeah. No, I love Frank Sinatra. He's
I
definitely
know.
underrated.
I one of my favorite parts of going to the Reside parties is the lounge singing, right? Your buddy who's the singer.
Yeah, Kurt Decker. Yeah, he just put out a baby is cold outside with someone on the Spotify.
Nice,
I'll
nice.
send
All
it
right.
to you.
You know what? It's funny. I think we do live in a day and age right now where Frank Sinatra is underrated. I think people have forgotten how classic his
Yeah.
music is. I used to cook all the time and now I'll cook occasionally. But one of my favorite things to do is make Italian food, Sunday dinner,
Mm,
throw on the Frank Sinatra, start just, you start shaving the garlic, paper thin, you start making sauce, making meatballs, whatever, and just listen to Frank Sinatra, a little glass of wine.
absolutely.
Oh
Yep.
man.
Yeah.
All right, I'm giving layups here. Rob Zeit says Sinatra was a solid actor too. Manchurian Candidate, 1962. Wow, Rob, dating yourself a little bit there.
Yeah, he won an Oscar for Rob will know. I don't know, but I know he won an Oscar too.
I did not know that. I did know that The Godfather was inspired by Frank Sinatra. Like
Hmm.
not the like he was Frank Sinatra, I believe, was the character in The Godfather. They had the singer. They're trying to get him out of his contract. They send. I think that's where they send the horse head in the guy's bed. I think it was about the Frank Sinatra deal. Janice saying need the vino too. Hit that like button if you agree with Lee. Is Frank Sinatra underrated? Get in the comments here. We got a few of them today. All right, 1 point for Lee. You're starting off ahead. That's good. That's good. Next one up. Taylor Swift, overrated or underrated?
So overrated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I
Now,
think we just
I'll
lost 100% of our
I
viewers
know.
right now.
I got to define it though. I think she's. I mean, I think she's an underrated entertainer. She's an overrated singer. So
I think she is an underrated business person. I love
there you
the
go. Yeah.
piece.
I mean, she's been spectacular. Whatever she created is amazing. I just wouldn't put it. When I think of singers, I think of singers. I don't think of everything else. But then I guess Kiss would be underrated as well. So
I think I think you're right. I think she's overrated as an entertain as a singer. I
is a
think
singer.
as an
Yeah.
entertain well, even as an entertainer, and I'm gonna tell you why. I mean, first of all, I think singer songwriters are incredible. So I mean,
Yes.
I love that aspect of her. But I'll be honest, I couldn't name for you three Taylor Swift songs right now. I don't know what all the hubbub is about. I'm looking at Samara. Samara, Taylor Swift, overrated, underrated? Underrated? How is it possible? Underrated. She's the most highly rated thing right now of all time. She's the Elvis of this generation. She's like the Beatles. She's like mania right now. She's bigger than NFL football, Lee.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
that's
what's
for
crazy
sure.
about it.
Yeah.
People, get in the comments. Let us know if we're crazy. If we're just crazy old guys over here that just don't get it. If we're out of touch, put it in the comments. I just turned 42, so all of a sudden I'm out of touch. Look at this. Rob's over here still on Sinatra here. Had to Google, and Sinatra won Best Supporting Actor in '54.
From Here to Eternity. Yeah, yeah.
Very nice, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Stats and info there. We love it, Rob. Yeah, Taylor Swift. What's her?
My daughters, they had tickets for her last show in Vancouver. They sold them for $3,500 a piece and took the
You know why
cash
they
and
sold
ran.
for $3,500 a piece? Samara just told me her net worth is 1.3 billion.
Yeah,
That's a lot of corporate apartments. I'll be honest with you, Lee.
that'd be many.
All right. You know what? Yeah, I think you're two. I think you're 2-0 right now. Let's go. Another one for Lee here. Golf, overrated, underrated.
God, I live in a golf course community. I golf a lot. It is definitely overrated.
It's overrated.
Yes.
I love it. You know what?
If I put as much effort as I put into golf into, I don't know, like a guitar, I'd be on tour with any number of bands. So,
Back up Taylor Swift.
well, she doesn't use real instruments, so that'd be tough.
Oh, she doesn't use real instruments.
I'm joking. I don't know.
Golf. You know, I think golf is funny, man. I think it was overrated for so long, and now people are like young people are getting into it. I think it's overrated. I lived on a golf course too. It was phenomenal. I love living on a golf course. We didn't even have a back fence, and we backed up to the fairway, so it's like your yard just went on forever. It was tremendous. I loved it. I drive my golf cart right out the backyard, right out to somebody else's property, drink some beers, drive around.
Exactly.
It was fantastic. But I think the sport itself is overrated. Don't care for it. How often do you play, Lee?
On the weekends, usually these days, so a couple times a week.
Times a week. All right. Very good. Yeah, you're right. It is overrated. 3-0. You're on a roll, Lee. You feel the pressure mount.
Like, well, I can't. It's a 5-question thing, right? So
maybe not. Maybe not today. Might have some extra bonus one. You got like a no hitter going into the fourth. So level you feeling right now? All right. Let's see. Next one up. Reveal parties, overrated, underrated.
So overrated. What is up with? I don't even understand. Like, seriously, you don't have enough ways to get together with your friends. You know, people die at reveal parties. You know that, right? I mean,
no, who died at a reveal party?
Oh my God, look it up. Just Rob will look it up. There's people that, because they put little exploding things into things and they blow up and it takes their head off.
Samara's fact checking you right now. How many people have died at gender reveal parties? Are we talking about gender reveal parties, or are we talking about other things like bankruptcies, other reveals?
No. I think just gender reveal parties. Yes, there's deaths out there.
There's deaths. There's bodies on these boxes.
Yeah, what just happened to waiting to see what you get?
Exactly, but a pilot died after releasing pink smoke from his plane.
A pilot died after releasing pink smoke from his plane. Oh my God.
That's a death.
A pipe bomb exploded.
When
the dad died. Imagine how terrible that story is. Your father died when he was shooting off some cannon full of pink confetti and it backfired and killed him.
Yeah.
And that's how you were born, little Madison.
Yeah. I mean, it's not funny. I'm just saying it's overrated. It's
hilariously, like the irony, you're bringing someone into the world and it's the same time committing seppuku on the way out. Like, it's very interesting. Yeah, you know what? Now that you put it that way, and understanding how important duty of care is to you, Lee, I have to agree with you. The reveal parties are overrated. They are, and they're so big. Whatever, you know what? Listen, I did a gender reveal thing. I had a cake. I got a cake. You cut into it. It was blue or it was pink, and that was it. And then we took a picture with Grandma on the cake. And we ate the cake, and it was whatever.
Yeah. My gender reveal was a little different. It just, when it came out, you saw what it was, and then you go, that looks like a girl.
It was a girl. And it was so big. What you know what? Listen, I did a gender reveal thing. I had a cake. I got a cake. You cut into it. It was blue or it was pink. And that was it. And then we took a picture with Grandma on the cake. And we ate the cake, and it was whatever.
Yeah. My gender reveal was a little different. It just, when it came out, you saw what it was,
Yeah, I'm sure you didn't invite the extended family
No,
in
no.
for that.
I did deliver my first daughter though, so that was a unique, unplanned experience.
Unplanned. You did it
Yeah,
unplanned. It was you weren't in a hospital.
I was, and it was a slow night on the 26th of December, and the doctor last second goes, "Hey, you want to deliver your baby?" I'm like, "I skipped most of these classes." He goes, "Don't worry about it. I'll talk you through it." So out she came.
So he was there, but he was more of a
He
supervisory
coached
role.
me through it. He coached me through it.
Do you get a discount for that?
No, but I can always use the infamous father saying of, "I brought you into this world.
I could take you out.
I can take you out," which I said more than once from 13 to 16.
Let me ask you this. Just playing devil's advocate here because I like talking to you, Lee. And I'm sure you don't have anything else to do.
I know.
Is there something that you would like to see, like maybe gender reveals? Just maybe it's the right idea and the wrong execution. Is there something that we maybe should reorganize these reveal parties around? Is there something else you'd like to see revealed at a party with some pomp and circumstance, some theatrics, some props?
That isn't a gender reveal,
Yeah,
like just life experiences, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we probably, I can say this from, being a Catholic and living with all the guilt that goes with that. We don't celebrate enough for the things that go well. Yeah, I do think there's some things we could pause and do something with and share with your friends. It's not on Facebook. I mean, I think what's happened is because of Facebook, because of all these other avenues, we share our lives so freely and openly that you don't have there's no questions. Go, "Hey, I saw on Facebook you did this," versus, "Hey, Ben, how you doing?" Like, "Oh, I just moved," right? Um, so yeah, I do think we could do a better job. Maybe share less and share more at the same time.
I have one for you. You know what I always see on LinkedIn? People are like, "Oh, it's been a wonderful 5 years at this company. I'm going to miss these wonderful people." Blah, blah. I don't care. I don't care how much you loved working there. I want to where you going. And then
Right.
it's like, I can't tell. It's not public yet. Can't tell. Then you know what? Give me a reveal party. Talk to me
There
when
you
you know
go.
something. Tell me when
There
you
you
can tell
go.
me. Then I'll tune in, and then I want to see you rip a cannon, possibly die, and then ta-da! I'm going here. Like National Signing Day. Like I put the cap on. I'm going to reside. Or
Right.
whatever. Right?
I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
New job
It-
reveal parties. That should be the new thing.
Well, and I think too, if you tie it back to what we do, I mean, the federal law that's come out around non-competes and all that, right? Like pretty much that's been wiped out. So no one can stop you from saying anything at any time. So I think you could do something quicker.
Yeah. All right. So you know what? I'm with you, Lee. You're just so persuasive today. What are you 4-0 right now? You're going into the fifth with a no-no. Let's see what's next.
Oh,
Coffee
God.
out of a percolator. Percolated
Dude,
coffee.
yes, yes.
The
I mean,
old-fashioned way. The good
oh,
old
the
days.
old-fashioned way.
Sitting
I don't
right there
need.
next to a basket of keys is the percolator.
I don't want to have to hit a button, listen to it grind, wait. Just give me some coffee into a cup. I get excited about that. I don't want to wait in line. I just where's the coffee?
Get excited about coffee and a cup.
I love coffee in a cup when I want it. So,
Yeah,
you go into these airline lounges, and there's two groups, right? There's a whole bunch of people lining up to get in front of the machine that hand makes your coffee. Then over here to the side, there's like four, bins of coffee, and no one's over there but me.
just going to town.
I just
Like
want coffee. I don't want it. It doesn't need to be experience. It's just caffeine.
let me ask you this: how do you take your coffee out of this percolator?
Straight up black.
Black. Yeah, you're just a pure, just pragmatist.
I, which is why certain coffee chains don't appeal to me because pure black is pretty harsh. But yeah, I like
Gotta
black coffee.
ask you. We just did a national poll. It's been very divisive. It's threatened to tear apart the very fabric of the relocation industry. I'm gonna ask you right now. They say don't talk about politics, but I gotta ask you: Dunkin' or Starbucks?
Duncan.
Mm,
It's not even a question.
This is not an official point, but it's basically you just walk somebody. So you no longer have a perfect game going. You technically have a no hitter still, but you do not have a perfect game going. Okay. Coffee, yeah, I'm a drip coffee guy, and as I've gotten older, I've had less and less patience with all the, all the questions around it. Okay.
Right.
Okay. You know what? Hey, he's got 5. Do we got any more for him? We got bonus rounds going in extra innings, Lee. I was told that you have nothing on your calendar today. Laughter, overrated, underrated.
It's underrated. I mean, you got to laugh, right? Life is funny. Everything's funny. I mean, that's what I enjoy about being on this show. I mean, there's very few things to include someone dying in a gender reveal party that aren't funny. So, no, laughter. It's underrated. You got it. It's
1,000%.
It fixes it. I think there's studies on it, but listen, life is hard enough. Most things are funny, I think.
I have a theory about this. That people, I mean, I think, yes, it's totally underrated. I think sometimes, especially early on, people didn't like my show because they felt like it was just too buddy-buddy, or it was just kind of joking around. It wasn't serious, whatever. I think the smartest people are funny.
Mm-hmm.
I think it takes a true intelligence to be funny and to connect on a way, and to put something in a way that makes somebody think, oh, I never thought about it that way, and chuckle.
Yeah, and I think you got to be funny. You got to be, have enough humility to understand that, you're not perfect, and your own self-deprecation is pretty. As a leader, particularly, I think, if you want to, I think, not just earn trust, but just calm the room, if you will, under fire. It's it's your own ability to make fun of yourself. I mean, if you can do that, I think.
Here at Glomo, maybe. We need to spice things up a little bit. Anyway, that's debatable. All right, man, look at this. He's going into the 7th. Is there another one? Oh man, the hits keep coming.
Jeez.
Oh yeah, we're going deep. We actually just recently had a record set on this show for the most consecutive overrated, underrated is correct by Jana Chesnowski, our director of consulting in Brazil. You are actually threatening to break that record right now, Lee Curtis, with your 7th consecutive overrated, underrated correct. It's like the Scripps Howard spelling bee. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. South Carolina.
So the state, not what I saw. So the state. That's a highly political question, probably.
Curveballs out here.
That
we were showing the heater, but now we threw you the curve.
Yeah. It's overrated.
Because most people, it's not very highly rated. So then that's too high, is what you're saying.
Well, again, I live in a particular bubble within South Carolina. It's one of it's drawn them. Look at the relocation stats down here over the last couple of years. It's nothing but a magnet from the Northeast. So it's grown exponentially. But it's a very it's a very one-minded town. So
Yeah.
So who put what was the right answer?
The right answer. South Carolina, overrated, underrated. I'm gonna say underrated. Somebody just got a base knock here. I'm gonna say underrated, and I'm gonna tell you why. You got manufacturing jobs coming to South Carolina. You've got I think the Carolinas plural are the new Florida.
That's for sure.
The Yankees are coming down, and want the in between. They want to go because they want to still be able to get back up there and not go all the way. I think you've got you've got a fair amount of land. You're getting good value, I think, generally speaking. I lived in North Carolina for a while. South Carolina's got it's got a little bit more character than North Carolina too. It's kind of got some kind of personality there, maybe a chip on its shoulder, maybe if I could say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how's the barbecue though? Because North Carolina barbecue is atrocious.
No, it's good here. I mean, it's really good. So you got to give credit to the southern food styles down here. Big craft brewing. There's there's a lot, if you live where I live, which is, kind of the throat of Hurricane Alley and all of that, you're battling things that you never thought you'd battle. Now, God bless the people in Asheville that, thought, they were far away from it and didn't. But normally, right, if you're on the coastline, that's where you take the hits. And, it's an omnipresent threat 3 months out of the year. So it does wear on you, But that being said, I'd rather live here than Northern Virginia, and we do love it here.
Yeah, I got to come down there and check it out, and maybe
Yeah,
change my mind.
you're welcome anytime. No, you wouldn't change your mind. I was trying to take a holistic view of the state. Healthcare is not as great here. So it's an interesting paradox. Everyone's moving down here that's older, but they can't, they're not staying here for their healthcare. They get sick, they go to Charlotte, right? They get sick, they go to Florida. South Carolina is not great with healthcare.
Like even
education on its own isn't.
Like go to South Carolina, University of South Carolina or Clemson or something like that. They don't. Is there pockets or no?
Yeah, there's probably pockets, but I mean, I think most of the people I know where I live, if they have a serious issue, they're heading to Charlotte.
Right. Okay.
So.
Yeah. All right. That's fine. Hey, listen, it's still a shutout. It's just not a no-hitter. Okay.
All right, I'll take that. I'll take it. It was a bunt.
Do we have another one? We got two more. Samara, you're doing a lot right now. We got a new producer in the house. She's really trying to make a name for herself out here. Let's go, producer Samara. Celebrity endorsements.
No, I mean that's just that's a topical answer based upon what we just went through. I don't care what side of the aisle you were on. Who cares? Who cares?
Oh, you're thinking political.
Yes. Yeah. How could you not?
You're saying I'm never gonna have Taylor Swift endorse Reside.
No. I'm talking about just
the presidential celebrity endorsement.
I think anything political. It's just who cares what you. Why are we waiting to see what Oprah thinks? I don't understand it.
Yeah. My beef is with the whole election. The amount of money spent on campaigning is disgusting.
Yeah.
How many billions of dollars were spent? Samara's going to look this up.
Well, $1 billion was spent on the Harris campaign.
Yeah, so it's probably about the same on the other side. So it's probably about $2 billion.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be good if you just said, "Hey, pick a number. Here's $250 million each."
That's
campaign.
That's your salary cap.
That's it. Make it work. Make it work. I think it would be a really interesting process to watch. I think you'd see a lot more stumping. I think it shouldn't be a race to the well for money that drives a campaign.
2020 was $14 billion. 14.4 billion. That's for all elections, though. I bet, not just presidential. I bet that's that's a lot of money. I mean, you're talking about at that point. You're talking about like just for presidential. She's telling me.
Really? Okay, so I'm violently wrong.
So that's like $200 per voter, or $100 per voter. Just give me the cash. Tell me what to fill out. Like, you know what I mean? Gosh, it's like one of those surveys at the mall. I'm with you on that. Overrated for sure. Let's keep it going. Last one, Samara, is drumroll please.
My alma mater.
University, fire up chips. Let's go.
Yeah, it's a MAC school, so it's definitely right out of the gate. It's born underrated. So it's born underrated. You're playing in a D1 conference in a state that's got University of Michigan and Michigan State. It's always picking. It's always it doesn't pick you. You pick it. But no, listen. I go back. I'm on the board there. I love my school. I think we put out great kids. But it always is. Talk about chip on its shoulder. It's definitely got a chip on its shoulder.
Y'all punch above your weight in football specifically. When you look at the pros that have come from Central Michigan, to your point, right? It's not Michigan State. It's not Big Blue, but y'all put some. Antonio Brown. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
From Michigan.
Yeah. I think Chip Kelly took a stop in there.
Some real quality
Dan
application.
Dan Marley played there. I graduated Dan Marley. So
Thunder
basketball.
Dan.
Thunder Dan. I can't believe you said Thunder Dan. Yeah, that was what his college name was. But yeah, it was
Really?
pretty. Yeah, Thunder Dan, because he didn't have a 3-pointer back in college. He just came down the middle and jammed it.
Oh, and then he had to adapt the game for
Yeah, when
the
he started
pros.
becoming a 3-point specialist, it was mind blowing, honestly.
That's so interesting because I didn't really understand that. I just thought it was like the Thunder when he hit the three banger. Central Michigan University, underrated, most certainly. You know, gosh, that's an impressive record there. What did we get to with how many correct? He had 8 correct or something like that. Crazy amount. 5-2. Oh man, she's not being kind at all.
She gave me
Five to
two
two.
off. What was the two?
5-2. What did you get wrong? Uh-oh. South Carolina. He's wrong on that one. Yeah. And the cough. No, we like the percolator. We're giving him
We
percolator.
love percolator. Yeah,
Six,
so
six,
six
six
one.
and one. 6-1. Not bad. Not bad, Lee. Not bad. Really strong
Well,
showing.
I'm glad that someone else still holds the record, though. I didn't want to carry that pressure.
Yeah, that would be a lot. But you know what? You can come on in 3.5 more years. Maybe kind of work on your game a little bit, and then we'll see if we can't set a new record. No, all kidding aside, Lee, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you being so generous with your time. I know you're a busy person. I love what you're doing there at Reside. This Wyndham Hotels and Resorts partnership sounds pretty incredible for you guys, and I'm really rooting for you there. We got people tuning in here. What's up, Jody? I see you over there. Jana, I see you over there. This is cool. Find joy in every day, for sure. Lee, you want to leave us with a final thought before we sign off? I know we're over time, but give you that chance.
Listen, I love about your show is you bring a lot of different people together. I think it's at the end of the day, what we all do is service, and we put the love in service. To shout out to your show. And I think, certainly, I know I'm always looked at as the corporate housing guy, so it's a shout out to my industry, but, the industry's changing, the world's changing. There's a lot more people looking at our products, and, if we do what we do, we'll be just fine.
Yeah, love it. Love the optimism. Thanks, everybody. This is fantastic. We will see y'all next week. Lee Curtis, appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see y'all.